This Choircast podcast is brought to you by the book Drugs and Jesus by Josh Lawson. It's no secret that churches are stumbling in the dark when they look for ways to effectively serve people who use drugs. As the death toll of accidental drug overdose continues to rise across our country at an alarming rate, Christians are struggling to connect their faith with this urgent and holy work. Faith-based activists are attempting to bridge the gap, but so far, their message has been confined to socially progressive circles. Drugs and Jesus takes readers on a journey of theological and practical transformation that will help them learn how to better serve the most vulnerable members of their community, all without having to become experts in the field of addiction or theology.
Forget what they told you in Sunday school. God's not mad at you. You don't have to make America great again. And your spirituality doesn't have to look anything like theirs. Welcome to Evangelicalish with Paul and Ashley. We're untangling and unlearning what harms, reclaiming what heals, and searching for a new kind of 21st century spirituality.
All right. We have something to celebrate today.
We do.
Yeah. Do you want to
We
share?
do. I don't, because I don't know this. I don't know the particulars. I know the gist.
I forgot to pull up the beautiful logos, but the gist is this website named Millions rates podcast in all these different categories. And in the Evangelical category, we were the number 11 podcast in America.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
And
We're
in
number
the
11. We're number 11.
And in the ex-Christian category, which I'm not sure, I guess that's broader
Yeah.
than just the ex-evangelical. Like Anne, I see in the comments here of the live stream, is saying she's a former Catholic or pulling away from the Catholic Church. So I guess that's ex-Christian takes all in all. In that, we're number 5. For some reason, we're higher in the all Christian category than in the evangelical category.
I think that's all you. I think that's all you, unconventional Pastor Paul. I think you
that what
pushed
it
the
is?
boundaries. So you
All right.
pushed us into that category as well. So
All right.
I
Number
know.
5.
We
5.
now that feels like Sesame Street.
Five,
Yeah.
5. Let's sing a song about 5. How many is 5? That's one of the songs. And I sing that because the government is cutting public television funding. Yeah.
Golly gee. In solidarity. Here we
I
are.
was going to say one other thing that's happening for us this week.
Okay. Oh yeah. Golly gee.
This big clown tent is going to be put over our house.
Pain in my ass.
Yes.
We have termites up the ass. That's why we have to do it.
And termites are definitely a pain in our ass.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been so it feels like we're being invaded. And then we also had a raccoon in the ground floor. It just feels like very scary all of a sudden that all these things are happening in our house. And we're like,
we brought in a guy who drained 500 gallons of water from under our house. Yeah.
We had a raccoon in the subfloor. We have termites. Yes, things are wild at the
Varmints are everywhere.
home.
Yes. But yes,
Anyway,
we have to move out. It's this whole thing. And some of you probably have done it before. We have to move out and for about, 3 days and kill the termites. If there is a God, I want to kick him in the groin for creating termites and mosquitoes.
I wonder what in the circle of life, what value termites bring.
Somebody must eat them. They must be food for somebody.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, anyway, I will be glad to get it done. Today we will be bagging and double bagging stuff. And I'm going to actually use it as an opportunity to clean out a whole bunch I think we have some tortilla chips left over from our watch party in November of 2020.
The election night.
They're still kind of good. Why are we throwing them out? Let's keep the tortilla strips. We might want them. I'm going to throw them out today.
I want people to know that nobody does cabinet
Oh, that's
reclamation
adorable.
and cleaning as this person that I'm looking at on the screen right now. It is a it is
Oh.
something to behold.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I feel like it could be my side hustle is and then, like, all these people started making shows about how they, like, come in and organize your life, and I feel like they're stepping on in my space, like, I feel very OG about it. And I don't do the fancy, like, get the California Closets to come in and build thing. I'm like, "Let's go to Target and get you some plastic bins, and you will end up with the most organized closets and cupboards of anybody." So, yes, it is my contribution. Just as we're learning so much about termites in the live stream, which is wonderful. The chimpanzees are sustained by the termites, which is great. I'm seeing no chimpanzees around my house, which is probably why we have so many termites. We need some
Yeah,
chimpanzees here to eat them.
exactly.
Anyway,
I love it. River Hugger says termites are important decomposers, material recyclers. And I love that. She's saying that in the live chat. I love that because my spirit animal, as we've talked about before, is the beetle.
yep,
And that's the beetle's job, is to break
yep.
down dead things
Oh,
and create
wow.
new nutrition for life.
What if
And
this is like a whole spiritual thing that like it's like a
yeah,
prophetic deal that we have termites because it's like our whole household is like decomposing something. I have heard you talk about that for several years now, and I will tell you I'm still very uncomfortable with the beetle. I have not found a fondness for it, despite how much it means to you.
look how cute they are. Look at that cute little
I
face.
don't think there's anything cute about that. I think it's ugh. Like, I do not stop it. I do not wanna look at that. I think
Oh
it's
my god.
awful.
For anybody listening on audio, I have several stuffed beetles around the house, and I have one that I now kind of sleep with every night. Well, the beauty of them is that they take dead things, break them down so the nutrients can be used for new life. And to a certain extent, that's the work of unconventional Pastor Paul, is to take dead religion, break it down so that it can be nutrition for new life. And
Hey,
Jesus said about, like, if a tree doesn't bear fruit, you rip it out by the roots and throw it in the fire. That's
yep.
the work. Yep.
Shall we call you the termite of Christianity?
No, not termite, beetle.
I know,
Like
but to align with our current real world experience, like, can you not also embrace that?
I cannot,
Oh,
because that would be betrayal to my cousin, the beetle.
okay. All of this all of this does lead us to our topic today, um, which is what enables a person to escape Christian nationalism. And to be honest, some of the experiences I had at those high school sleepaway camps probably for me kind of coated my heart, let's say, and ultimately kicked in, decades later in a deconstruction way. So
How
let's get
is
into
that?
it.
How would church camp as a high schooler help you walk away from Christian nationalism?
Hold on, I have to sneeze. Sorry, I
Oh,
couldn't find the
okay.
mute. Um,
Okay.
okay, I did. Okay, so
This
like
this
zooming.
this podcast is off to a flying start. After I edit it, it's going to be about 15 minutes long.
I
Go
think
ahead.
our ratings just plummeted. I think we
I think
went from
so too.
11 to
I
like
think so.
100.
Yeah.
Um, I will say, kind of zooming out, not just those. I had a very profound experience when I was in ninth grade at spring break Christian camp, and maybe again, I don't know. I think my sophomore year, I went to like a leadership camp. And zooming out, I do think that I had adults in my life who were sort of creating this expectation or like aiming me and sort of lifting me up towards like, hey, there is this divine presence. Now these were not the words they were using, but it was a heart orientation towards um open yourself up to the spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And it was very genuine. It was very authentic, and it created a craving in me for that authentic heart connection with perfect love.
Mm.
Um, and I think I had a couple of experiences like that. I think my parents, as much as they didn't, they were living out this sort of cultural version of Christianity, but at the same time, and especially my mom, was so she was so angry at the like male chauvinistic evangelical church that she grew up in, and she was always railing against it. And I think that she was like pushing that out, and it made room for me to not fall prey to a lot of that stuff. I mean, I guess all this to say, like, I think I had people and experiences that oriented my heart towards some kind of real thing. And so when it was time to kind of crack out of the I don't know, plaster Paris of the evangelical church, like, it felt natural to me because of course I was oriented towards that.
Mm.
That makes
In
sense?
our stream of Christianity, there was a saying, that saying of "eat the chicken, spit out the bones," right? And so it sounds like you were finding through Christianity a pathway to a true spiritual
Yes,
connection with the divine, and you finally realized, oh, some of this stuff I'm being taught is the bones, and I need to spit it out. But I'll
absolutely.
but
And
I'll keep
the
the rest of it
saying
for
the
nourishment.
saying is eat the meat and spill out the bones, but sure, chicken.
What did I eat?
You said
Eat
eat
the
the
meat,
chicken.
spit out. Okay, yeah, right. Oops.
But I will say that and yeah, so like the chicken bone at times did get caught in my throat, and it was like
Yeah.
perilous, and like like you were like the one that did the Heimlich. So I was like, what? Um, so yeah, so you probably the most profound impact on me, not going down the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole of Christian nationalism.
If Jesus were in America today, what would he say about the right-wing evangelical church? Pastor Paul's new novel, Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable, answers this question in a riveting story of a mysterious miracle-working stranger who upsets a conservative, evangelical town with his critique of their political views. Will the pastor and people of the local megachurch listen? Or will the church crucify the messenger all over again? Religious Right, Religiously Wrong is the story America needs right now. James Fallows, writer for The Atlantic and former speechwriter for President Jimmy Carter, says Paul's book is very much worth reading and could not be more timely. Wayne Jacobson, co-author of the mega bestseller, The Shack, says this novel will confront fears and challenge the reader to a more excellent way of living and loving. Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable is available on Amazon or at our website evangelicalish.com.
Some of this kind of came about. I was actually kind of thinking about this, and I've thought about it a lot over the last few years. Like, what is it that helps people walk away from Christian nationalism? I'm, you know, part of our exit from Christianity is the wonderful, loving, good-hearted, smart Christian people around us that we saw saying, let's set up the gallows and hang the president, and
Right down the chute. They
Donald,
went
Donnie is God's man, and they were just like, how can this be? How can people who read the Christian New Testament believe this to be God's plan for them? And I've often wondered, like, what is it? What does it take in a person to be able to walk out of that indoctrination? Uh, I say a lot that, as a very young kid, I was always the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes story. That when everybody else is like, "Ooh, look at the Emperor's clothes, aren't they amazing?" And then there's the little boy that says, "Wait, the Emperor's naked," and it breaks the spell for everybody else. So it almost feels to me sometimes like there's something that is just inherently annoying in me that made me be able to say, "Wait, what? what? The whole group is saying this? That's got to be wrong. That's always been my bent. So I don't know. Maybe I wonder if that is part of it for me.
Well, I think there are, when you stop and consider other people's experiences, it does seem like, I mean, we're all connected. So it does seem like there are always people who are kind of breaking out of the cocoon, um, making way for others. Like I think that's probably a a normal kind of experience. And when I think of maybe people who were that for us, it's books we read or like podcasts we were listening to. But I think I will just say, like, there, to restate what you said, um, early on in my experience, early on in my life, something got planted in me that or maybe it was already there and it was like awakened through my experience in an evangelical church setting, that it was possible to have this divine connection. And the person of Jesus and the way the person of Jesus was talked about in some of the churches I attended, and I would say the Vineyard for sure. um that the Vineyard had a huge impact on me. John Wimber, the
Yeah.
way he would talk about um Jesus. I mean, I don't know. Like, when we learned later in life, like, there were ways in which the Vineyard folks were putting a bunch of like plaster Paris casting on spirit of Jesus or universal Jesus. But that, like, that was in deep for me. And then I think, yeah, the negative circumstances around us, and then like started to hatch that stuff out. And yes, you are definitely an 8, as our daughter would say, on the Enneagram. So you're like, which I still don't exactly know what that's all about, but you are that personality type that goes against the grain.
Yeah. And so I was always really annoying for my family because of that. But I think I'm learning to say that's good. Again, I'm the beetle breaking down these old things, but I just always, like I said, reading the Bible as a little kid, I would read along and I'd be like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Just anything. There's no way Noah could have got all those animals on a boat and handled all the poop, and it doesn't make sense. I just continually was there, and I think that really helps. And I'm interested. I pulled up something here of traits of people that leave a cult. Like how are
Mm.
people who are in a cult able to get out? And here's what it says. It says they have a capacity for critical thinking, even if dormant for years. People who have a capacity to question inconsistencies will finally notice that something doesn't add up. Recognizing truth shifts to fit power, and people will notice that power is not matching up. Exposure to outside perspectives, starting, like it says, books, podcasts, media, education, travel, relationships, experience of betrayal or hypocrisy, emotional pain, internal integrity, and core values,
Mm.
and supportive relationships post exit, because leaving is very, very hard. And so I think that's a really good thing, because I did feel often that, like, okay, this kind of doesn't match up, but we're the good guys and I have to be in this so my kids don't go to hell and all those things. But Jimmy Swaggart passed away here in the last week or so, I think.
Yeah.
I was a kid deep in the Assemblies of God when Jimmy Swaggart's scandal came out, and I had met Jimmy Swaggart and shaken his hand, and it was just, and then it turns out the pastor that turned in Jimmy Swaggart for his immorality then was called out for his immorality, and he was having sex with his secretary. And I remember that, like, how does this happen? And I just think as years have gone along, I've had disappointment in leaders that makes me say, okay, this isn't all on the up and up. and always be kind of searching, like, what is wrong here?
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of things factor into our experience. Like, consider the time, like literally the years that we're alive on planet Earth, the society that we're in. Like the American society is pretty darn transparent. There is a value system here, I think, still that runs deep in our country that is wanting to expose things that are wrong or crooked. And, like, I mean, now those things are exposed, and a lot of people are like, "Yeah, we don't care." That's a whole nother thing. But over our lifetime, there's been this sort of orientation towards find the truth. The truth is value. So, like, yeah, these dudes are having extramarital affairs. Like that got unearthed and created an opportunity for you to and people in our generation to be like to question, like, huh. Um, I also think like we're seeing right now with the No Kings movement, I think inherent in our culture is this notion that um, we don't like when people are set up as the end all be all. I think that creates a challenging sort of attitude in people.
Yet, isn't it interesting? The no tread on me people, don't tread on me people are the ones deeply into the Trump MAGA cult. So
Well,
I wonder.
I know, but what's funny is I can look on my own personal network, and some of the don't tread on me people are deep into MAGA and others aren't. It's like what brought them into um the don't tread on me thing. It is a retardant for some of the MAGA stuff, and they fell out with MAGA because they, like they wouldn't go down that. So all of this to say, it's like kind of what factors in for people. Why do some get out or don't get sucked in the first place, and then why do others go down that path?
I do, though, see a lot of don't tread on me people who will, like, you point out the hypocrisy of right-wing Christianity, and it is a hypocrisy. It no different than the people Jesus called whitewashed tombs in the Bible.
Yeah.
And they'll see the hypocrisy and the dichotomies and the dissonance, and they scurry back into it. They choose to, because there is a need in human beings to be a part of a pack. And maybe it's my DID that I've always been like, oh, I kind of don't like being in the pack. Or maybe I
Well, you
had
have a pack
my
all to
own internal
yourself.
pack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're
and
like
and so when they're asking me to, like, okay, put away your brain, I'm like, fuck no.
you're
I
like,
just
which
am not.
one?
I'm
Which
not capable. Yeah, which brain am I supposed to put away? And I'm not capable of doing that. And I know we don't want to go down the Epstein rabbit hole, but it's kind of like, it seems like this is kind of breaking through those don't tread on me people, and particularly in the brosphere out there, they're really starting to say, oh, come on, look, you know Biden and Hillary wrote this thing. Come on, Donald. And it seems like for the first time we have some people starting to go, hey, our leader is full of shit. And
I have a
that's one
question.
of the things that bring you out of the cult.
Why, like, what is going on with QAnon these days? Is that gone? Is like, has that dissipated? Because
I don't
we
think
watched
so.
the HBO documentary on who is QAnon, and
Yeah.
it came down to the person in the wheelchair or the other young man that, like, those two are
Lived in his
friends. And
dad's basement. Yeah.
yeah, literally, like, but it seemed like that provided a little bit of sunshine. And, like, did that have any effect, do you think, on people not following QAnon so much anymore?
I don't think it had any impact at all, because
Okay.
there's
I just feel like I didn't
always
hear about it as much after that.
there's always the way to move the goalpost. Like, oh, it's this guy. Well, he's been one who's, like, been putting out the, whatever they're called, the I haven't studied it in quite a while, but there's always a new explanation. There's always a new, bigger enemy. And for some now, even with the Epstein thing, you can see the Alex Joneses who came out, very upset the first day when they were told there is no list, after Donald Trump had fanned these flames of like, release the Epstein list for
Right.
a number of years. And now Alex Jones is doing oh my gosh, the deep state is so powerful. They've
It's
gotten
so deep.
they've gotten to Donald and
Yeah.
they're threatening him with his life. And now Jones then has moved that to like, oh, Donald's not putting this out because he needs it to stay secret so he can continue to leverage the deep state. I mean, it's just, and you're just like, oh my God, you have to want to be in the Christian nationalist cult so much and be so in need of that community that you hang in there with it no matter what mental gymnastics you have to do to stay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad when you think about it. But I had a friend challenging me the other night, like, these MAGA people, they've been trained this way and they just don't know and they don't get any other information. And it's hard for me not to go, that was me. Like, nobody grew up in a more American Christianity centered household where I half jokingly say often, Ronald Reagan and God were neck and neck as the greatest beings who ever existed, with Reagan pulling slightly ahead, I think, at some point. I was in that. I was proud to be an American, but I think partly my love of history, and I had great history teachers along the way who were like, America wasn't necessarily the good guys in that moment. And that kept happening over and over again. So I think realizing, okay, America's not the good guys we think we're being told we are, and Christianity are not the good guys, made me want to like really question what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I remember, so I also, your spiritual practice, it wasn't just that you had a good history teacher, although that's amazing. Your spiritual practice in our probably first decade of marriage, you were like seeking God, every day or weekly. I mean, like you had a spiritual practice that was like, hey, these things seem apparent on the surface, but like there's something to, like, let me get in alignment with, spirit, God, da, da, da. You were doing that. And one of the things that came up for you was you feeling like God said to you at a time when it wasn't popular yet to turn off the radio, but you had this encounter, we would say, back in our
Yeah.
charismatic days. You had an encounter where you felt God tell you to turn off Rush Limbaugh.
Turn off Rush Limbaugh. Yeah.
And you did. And you had you talked later about like, I feel a lot different not listening to that stuff. I mean, this would have been in the 90s.
Yep.
So I guess so you have to see there is a lifeline, there's an oxygen tube to a, oxygen tank when you're deep underwater. You were breathing in some kind of spiritual connection that was causing you to like go against the grain,
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that was a big influential moment. May have been in the early zeros, by the way. It was G.W. Bush administration. So
Okay.
I don't remember when he got elected, but yeah,
It was 2000 to 2008.
Yeah, just realizing that listening to this programming was having a profound impact on my mindset and demeanor. That was, I felt like God said, turn off Rush Limbaugh for a week. And so I didn't listen to any right-wing media for a week. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot the sky is blue. I had forgotten that there was a blue sky and green grass out there. And that was a big impact.
Ann Weigert in the live stream chat wants to know why you would listen to Rush Limbaugh in the first place. We have legit evangelical, political, center right credentials. Like, in case anybody would doubt that, we have legit, like, we were in the room kind of thing with the Jimmy Swaggers and the ball. Like, yeah, like that is the world that we were in.
Absolutely. And I guess there's an axiom in the scripture that says the angel comes disguised or Satan comes disguised as an angel of light. And here's what I'll say about Rush Limbaugh. For one, I'm a radio guy, and Limbaugh probably was the greatest radio guy ever. Limbaugh and Howard Stern. Limbaugh was brilliant at how he delivered his message. He was funny. He had a great voice. He changed media in America forever, which, sadly, and he had forerunners that he was playing from, but he was super talented at what he did. So it was funny, and it was a very spoonful of medicine, a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down of these really toxic messages. So I would say that was a big part of it. I actually enjoyed listening to him
It was like
because
an
he was
entertainment factor.
very funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of it. But yes, when Limbaugh passed away, there was a great conflict of, should I be happy that this guy can do no more damage in the world, or feel badly that this very talented human being had whatever happened to him happen to him, so.
Yeah. No, I like, so kind of pulling on that thread just a little bit more, we both have had, I think, probably genuine, now wherever it came from, and whether or not, we talked last week about, was it last week we talked about taking the manliness out of God or whatever?
A couple of weeks
And
ago, yeah.
yeah, so we definitely, I think, imagined that this voice speaking to us from the inside was like a dude, like I talked about Fantasy Island God, kind of
Yeah.
hot, sitting on the throne, like.
Smiles, everyone,
Kind
smiles.
of like, God is so dreamy. Um, it's like a school age girl.
Oh,
But anyway, you would
God
have
is hot.
experienced
That's
God
funny.
is kind of. Um, so anyway, God, you're praying daily, whatever, and like you're like, God, you feel this pulling, this sense of like, hey, turn that radio off, and you do, and it has this amazingly positive impact on you. I had a very similar experience when this is going back to camps. My sophomore year in high school, I went to like a youth leadership camp, and we were told to go out into the woods with our prayer journals and like ask God a question and write it down. And I still remember to this day, we were supposed to ask God what we needed to give up to be holy when we went back home
Mm,
from leadership camp. And I know that I know that I know that I heard this voice say, dedicate to me that which you do for yourself. And it was like this complete, like, rocked me. To this day, there are so many times that I'm like feeling crunchy, feeling like, what is this tangled mess I'm in? And it's like, oh, I'm bringing an agenda of self into something that has no place here, and I got to let it go. As I'm not, I'm not supposed. I don't want to serve myself. I want to serve the collective, and that is a word that stays with me and has guided me my entire, from 16 years old on, like, I mean, not always, obviously, but like, that's right. How can we not say that the spirit world we were introduced to through those church experiences, like, it has a huge effect on us,
mm, yeah.
in a good way. And I think that is the stream, or the like through line, that when stuff started coming up for me, it was 2016 and Trump stuff. I'm like, how in the world could anybody mistake this presence and this like fomenting group and this human being as like, this is this, the spirit of Christ embodied? Like, what? Absolutely not. It was not hard to say, no, that's not my Jesus, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was inoculated from that.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I think I learned to read the Bible in a different way. And maybe it was you kind of brought John Wimber to me, and, hearing Wimber was, a rock and roll guy who,
Yep.
became a Christian, and he had this, when do we do the stuff? Like, he read the Bible from a non-indoctrinated place, and he was like, why are we not doing anything we see in the pages of this book if we say we believe this book? And I think that gave me a grid, and through many of the people we say are Christian nationalists now, gave us a grid to see the Bible differently. And what you were saying just made me think of, this passage in Ephesians 6. And I'm sorry if the Bible is triggering for some. I want to say the Bible can be a book of ancient wisdom and not the book we were told that it was. And I still find it fruitful if I see it for what it is. But Ephesians 6 talks about this idea of not wrestling against flesh and blood. Like, our battle isn't against human beings. And the passage says, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places. And I think this is an ancient first century Jewish person saying, we need to change our groupthink. We need to change our mindset. What we're trying to get out of is being stuck in this groupthink. And he calls it a spiritual principality. But I think it is a mindset that we feel we have to adhere to. So we start reading things to affirm the beliefs of our community rather than with critical thinking to say, wait a second, that may be where the crowd is going, but that's not who I am. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
be a part of that.
Yeah. And River Hugger in the chat says actually reading the Bible and not being afraid to ask the hard questions. If your faith is based on fear, you aren't open to the truth. Like, I
Yeah.
think that is the sort of the spirit or the mind, like the mind frame that you're talking about. And yeah, so like it can be this totally freeing, liberating. I read in gosh, I'm steadily making my way through Richard Rohr's book, The Universal Christ, which I say steadily making my way through because it's taking me months and months and months, because I will read like 2 or 3 lines from like a page, and it's like it's so substantive and intense for me that I have to just stop and like meditate on that for like a week before I can pick it up. It's so profound of a book. But I think it was in that book where he talks about like the more you open yourself up to spirit God, the more inclusive you become.
Mm.
And so the more you kind of turn away from spirit God, the more exclusive, small, and like very narrowly framed you become. So, like, just think about people that who are just like they flow in an inclusivity and an embrace of people and where they're at. Like, to me, that's like spirit of God right there. And also, Riverhugger wants to know, what is this figurine in my hand? So this is my visual aid. I bought this for a project at work. These are magnetic. They're called magnetic characters, and they snap together. And I bought this to show people like how we connect to each other in the like community development work that I do. But I also think it's an expression of, like seeing the Holy Spirit in everybody, right? And like it just opens you up to be connected to those people, even people that are on the surface very difficult. So this is a
Yeah.
magna man.
And yes, I think we are energetically, universally connected to each other. I think we are part of something that is a whole, WHOLE, that we've been separated from for whatever reason. And there is a natural pull that pulls us to that other people, like those magnets. And you have to learn to shut that down. So, like, when we're saying open your mind and really think and be critical, literally in churches, people are taught don't do that. Like the the devil is a roaring lion prowling about seeking whom he can devour, and that is taught. And I have taught this myself. Like, if you get out of the herd, you're going to be like that wildebeest that gets separated from the pack and now is vulnerable. But while they are impenetrable as a herd, the lions can get to the one wildebeest that gets separated from the pack. And so you're taught aggressively that if you start to think, bad things can happen. The Satan can enter your mind. And I had a coaching client years ago who said, they told me if I left the church, my life would fall apart. And I left the church and my life has fallen apart.
It'd fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is true. It is messy. Leaving a cult, leaving a principality is super, super messy and hard. And so it takes a huge amount of courage to do this. But I just want to give the encouragement to anybody who might be listening to this today and wondering, like, that messiness is where life is. That messiness is where the better existence is on the other side of that thing.
Yeah. And, it takes courage. It also takes connection with other people.
Yeah.
And I've said this so many times on this show, but my religious lens, which was supposed to be very much, like be in love and service to other people, but what I didn't realize is there was an element of that religiosity that kept me shut off from people. It kept me afraid to be open and vulnerable. It created the expectation that I had to be the perfect Christian woman. The the religion of the spirit world I was in shut me down, and also my trauma backstory. So like that's a whole big thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, it takes courage and it takes connection with other people, and like though that can be very frightening if you don't realize it, but you have a lot of ways in which your guard is up and you're in survival mode and you're not open to other people being genuinely in your life. That to me is probably one of the most rewarding and hardest things to have worked through. And that is where a really amazing like mental health professionals come in.
Yeah.
Like it's for us, I think this journey has been, we've been like on this jet stream of sort of the core spirit of what we learned, but without maybe the religiosity, marrying up with mental health like practices and support from a mental health perspective. Those two things coming together have been very profound in our lives.
Mm. Yes, very much so. And gosh, you just sent my brain in about 16 different directions. So I'll pull myself back. I do have a "Are you trapped by a principality?" quiz. I'll just read some of these real quick because I thought this was good. Are you still under the influence of a principality? Check any of these you feel is true. I feel uncomfortable questioning my old beliefs, even if they are hurtful to me. I defend traditions or systems that harm people because, quote, it's always been that way, unquote. I believe suffering makes me more righteous. I think I must choose loyalty to my community over compassion for individuals. I feel fear or shame when I imagine leaving my current community. I believe my doubts make me weak or sinful. I see hypocrisy in my community, but tell myself it's not my place to question it. I silence my own needs to avoid conflict. So if you've checked 0 to 2 of those, you're moving towards freedom. If you check 3 to 5 of those, you're noticing the cracks. Keep going. 6 to 8, you're still likely very tangled in the old threads of the principality. Things to consider.
Ooh. That was quite a good list. Did Para put that together for you?
Yes, with some tweaking from me. It was
Okay.
AI assisted, let's say.
AI
Um,
assisted.
I'll post that in my Substack, by the way. If you're not subscribing to my Substack, you're missing out because now I'm doing my good stuff on Substack. So, uh,
How many platforms are you on? All the
well,
platforms.
I'm sort of like now going to pull back from some so I can really focus on the ones that are going to be, just to make my life sustainable. So I would definitely
Yeah.
say Substack is a place I'm going to be concentrating because it's a place I can just go, hey, that's interesting, and I can type out 2 paragraphs and post it on Substack. And it's Substack is not about um, uh, you know trying to go viral. It's you just get subscribers and you build community with
Yeah.
subscribers. So yeah.
And can you do video? You can post videos there too?
Yep.
Okay.
And I recorded audio of one of my morning prayers once, and a lot of people found that really helpful. And so yeah, I'll definitely be on the Substack. But the thing about this idea of a principality, ultimately, and I think this is helpful to think about if you're looking for reasons to go into that messy life. I just always tie this then to Jesus looking at the temple in the Christian text and saying, oh, not a stone of that thing's going to stand on another. Like that structure, which represents this principality mindset of I've got to be a part of this community, of I need to make Israel great again so that there can be peace on earth. He said, oh, that whole thing's going to come tumbling down. And there's not going to be one
Yeah.
stone standing on
Yep.
another. It's going to be
Yep.
totally crushed. And I always point out when I tell this, and he doesn't say, pray that God relents, and that doesn't happen. He's like, nope, that's going to happen. It's coming. And unfortunately, in that, the rocks do fall on innocent people sometimes. And so, yes, we have to hold to one another in the midst of this and protect each other.
Okay, can I quote Richard Rohr one more time, or is it going to be
Absolutely.
too much?
No,
So,
absolutely.
okay, I feel like because I'm reading 2 Richard Rohr books right now. The Tears
Mhm.
of Things is the most recent one, and then, like I said, I'm steadily going through Universal Christ. I think this is in the Tears of Things, and he makes the point that he is observing so many human beings in our country acting with like grace and kindness and an expression of genuine divine love, and they are not at all connected to the church. And he's like never before in our nation's history of like the since the whatever we would call our Declaration of Independence, like the United States of America, like have we seen these kinds of expressions of kindness, goodness, and love that are not in the name of organized religion. And he makes the point of like, this is a really good thing. And what you just said of like, when Jesus said, all this is going to be, it's all going to be torn down. And he didn't say that you shouldn't pray to stop it. Just imagine human beings like accessing like the God within, expressing that to one another, not as a religious thing that's controlled by, by like a small handful of people. Like that's a pretty encouraging sight, don't you think, to consider?
Yeah. Yeah. You've actually hit on something that was a big part of my, deconstruction journey. Was even as a young child, I was like, oh, I wish I could love people. I had a heart for people, but I knew God didn't want me to love certain people,
Yeah.
and that was just so hard for me. And I would watch those people that we said were so evil with this evil agenda. I'm like, gosh, they kind of seem to love people better than we do. And that was always a big draw out for me.
Okay, this could extend our time past our allotted hour, but I have to
Okay.
share this story and maybe it'll be the basis for where we pick up next week. Share your cringiest evangelical story, okay? Like, so this is actually really like sad and cringy. I had a best heart friend, like soul sister, grade school friend. I've looked her up online. I haven't reached out to her, but she's in Texas. Her name is her maiden name is Jennifer Mummy. She's a therapist now, I think in the Houston area. Anyway, we were like soul sisters. Okay. And I was Baptist and her family was Methodist. And when we were in, I think maybe fourth grade or fifth grade, one time at recess, I told her she was going to hell if she did not say this prayer and leave the Methodist church and become Baptist. And I remember crying
Ouch.
and telling her, like, you are going to hell. And okay, then her mom, Linda, called my parents, of course, and told them what I said. And my parents had to sit me down and say, hey, actually, probably Jennifer's not going to hell. And I'm like, but she hasn't prayed that prayer. She got baptized when she was a baby. And I was feeding back to them what my,
What
vacation
you'd
Bible
been
school
taught.
church
Yeah.
had been taught. And I still remember this day. And I thank God for them because they were like, yeah, but honey, not really. Like they were going against what the church was teaching. And they were like, no, that's really probably not true.
There's always a
And
loophole.
yeah, so my God, what in the hell
And
was
we wonder why we're indoctrinated into this cult-like religious sense when as children we're told you have to tell your friends they're going to hell, or else
absolutely.
Jesus says, if you're ashamed of me before
That's right. If
people,
you
I'll
denied
be
me before
ashamed of
men,
you. Yeah.
and I mean, by that point in my life, I had been door to door witnessing with my wonderful father, who was a great salesman. The man can sell ice to Eskimos, and he could definitely sell that you needed to say this prayer. I mean, we were going door to door to strangers. That was my upbringing. So of course I was like, I don't know for certain that if my friend Jennifer Mummy died today, that she was going to go to heaven. I better stop recess and tell her she's going to hell.
Yeah. I think we need to
Probably not.
change the ice to Eskimos thing. Like,
Is that racist?
I don't know. I doubt. I mean, it probably tinges on it. I don't know,
Okay.
uh, but I'm trying to think of like sell red hats to MAGA or something like that, because they probably already have a closet full of them. But I don't know. I don't know. So how do we encourage people who are leaning into, or maybe thinking about, or feel a tug to lean into stepping out of what they've known? Um, but there is real fear there.
Well, I have to say, um, I think there are so many good resources. Like I would point to, I have it just behind me here. I have found for like a daily devotional, this Aramaic Jesus is
That's good.
really good. And it's also, maybe only can take a little, I mean, it's very dense. But I think just like maybe you don't have to think about like all the consequences of now I'm just going to turn it. I don't really think that. I think it's just like literally breath by breath, step by step, hour by hour, day by day. And I think it starts within, and it's just a very steady, build your inner world, your inner spiritual and emotional health world, and you will find yourself moving down. You will 6 months later, a year later, you will find yourself in a healthier place in relationships and stuff like that. I don't think you have to just be like, that's it, I'm you know break it. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah. And yes, we don't want to put like a new set of rules on people. Okay, read Richard Rohr every day or read Aramaic Jesus every day. We don't want to start a new religion. But you read Richard Rohr. I read this book that I'm holding up that you can't see. I read
Yes.
the DSM-5 because I'm working on my master's in marriage and family therapy. And what it says for the people that we're encouraging is you have this sense inside of you for a reason. and that reason is important to hear. That part of you that's saying, there's something wrong here, isn't it? Well, it may be scary, but it's not ill-intended, and it's trying to tell us something important. And so I would just say, my Bible, the DSM, says lean into that, and you'll
Yeah.
find, and what we hope this podcast does for people is show you you're not the only one that feels this way. You're not alone, and you're not wrong or evil to feel this way.
Yeah.
And going into that messiness of stepping out of that herd is where a better, more peaceful, more loving, thoughtful life abides.
I appreciate your push on like don't replace like one religious practice for another 1,000%. So I'm not holding this up to be like you now have this new discipline. I'm just like it's just like a
Yeah,
resource.
totally.
Um, it's just a resource. So the other thing that I think is a good, like if you've been in the evangelical world and particularly if you've been in the charismatic evangelical world, there's a major focus on like experiencing the presence of God. I do think that's a helpful, like to me, that translates nicely into contemplative meditation. And I do find spending 5 minutes at a time just kind of shutting down my doer brain and imagining the presence of perfect love, whatever you think of that as. Like sometimes I'll see it as a vast underground lake with perfectly crystal clear, perfectly cold water. Um, I just kind of make myself think like, no, there's a source of love and life that just is, and it's just perfect love. You don't have to do anything. Yeah, observing that in your imagination, it changes your orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's just like a way to calm and center myself. So like that's a helpful
Yeah,
practice in
I
case.
I love what you're saying there, because I would reflect that back in a reframing of like there's not a formula, and there's not a list of rules you have to follow on a daily basis to get this connection to the divine, but it does take work. It
Yeah,
doesn't just happen. It
right.
We have to work through the things that hold us back, or and so I think like, my altar's right back here somewhere. I have this altar I burn incense on that Ashley can't stand the smell
I hate
of.
it so bad, but yeah.
But it does put me into a different mind frame that it makes it a little bit easier to access heaven internally and externally, which I believe heaven is in
Yeah.
both. And so those types of, let me use the word disciplines, because we all need some discipline in our self-discipline in our life, can really help us start to change that mindset and get out of the principality.
And bringing it back to, so yeah, so there is work. It's all about taking care of your insides, taking care of your inner world. And that's where, a great mental health practitioner can be helpful with that.
Yeah.
But just realizing, like as my therapist would say, like slow your brain down, whatever you need to do to slow your brain down, and realize that all these competing thoughts and fears and da 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 da. It's like, okay, slow that down, have value for each of those different streams of thought. Um, give those thoughts a sense of relief of like, okay, yeah, that's true. I see that. Also, we're going to take a minute and like kind of just quiet our hearts and make room for that centered presence. Like it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And here's a little bit of a hard teaching from my heart, where I come from, is this world seems like it's on fire. And sometimes I think that's what it takes to get people to refocus. If we read Hebrew scripture, it's this constant pattern of people getting super comfortable and chasing wealth and not caring anymore about the poor, the foreigner, the marginalized, and the economically disadvantaged. And tragedy comes, chaos comes, collapse of society comes And in that burning, some of that stuff gets burned off, and it's a refining fire, not a punishing fire. And so I don't think we're just supposed to say, good, America is the empire on fire, but also be able to lean into, but sometimes Donald Trump is necessary to reveal the heart of people. And I'm not saying there's anything good about Donald Trump other than he's a human being and all human beings are valuable. But he has revealed the heart of a lot of people. And the goal is that we'll see that heart and go, ooh, yuck, I don't want to have that heart. And change comes from that opportunity. So be not necessarily at peace because we've got things we've got to fight now, but also know that this is part of really the advancement of humanity. Is like we build something, it falls down, and we build something new out of the rubble. And I think we're in that season just quite a bit right now.
We have gone 10 minutes, 11 minutes long. You know why? Because we're number 11. We're number 11. We're number 11.
And we talked a lot about bugs to start the show.
Yeah. But we should put a pin in it.
Can I say, can I play
Yeah.
something semi-funny just to be a palate cleanser to end?
I mean, okay.
This video surfaced of Greg Locke, speaking of Christian nationalists, and I can't take my eyes off of it. I can't. Let me share a little Greg Locke today.
I've been done with Starbucks for a long time. It's communist coffee anyhow. I've been done with Starbucks for a long time. It's communist coffee anyhow. You can go and drink a gallon of Starbucks a day. That's fine. Don't you bring in cups in this room. If I see it, I'm going to tell you to take it out. You hear me? I'm telling you, that company is not only one of the most godless companies on the planet, they are full-blown 1,000% a witch's coven. I promise you it's the facts.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I cannot listen to a man with a lion on his tummy. I can't. I cannot do it. I can't.
So I've had my reasons for not sharing that as of late, but today we're done with it. Now, if you got 5 cups, don't be freaking out. If you got a Starbucks shirt, don't freak out.
All right, I'll let it go. But he goes on to talk about how the logo is, sensualizing men.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just like you become more effeminate if you drink Starbucks. I mean, just.
Well, that explains it.
Yeah.
That explains it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had too much Starbucks in my life. Well, I'm not an alpha male anymore.
Yes. Okay. Well, we started with termites and we're ending with lion-tummied Starbucks cursing preachers. I would say we've come full circle and we need to let people go about their day.
Yeah. All right. I know Ann said she doesn't have access to Substack. Send me a note on that, Ann, and let's see if we can work it through. And just know on my Substack, I'm putting everything out free. I'm not charging. I've had a couple of people sign up for a paid subscription just to say, I love you. And I want to give a little support. You're not required to pay, but please do sign up for the free subscription because that's sort of my place to drop my stuff right now. So, yeah. Go to Substack.
I'll see you next week. I will tell you all about the tenting experience.
Yes. Sacred Rebellion, by the way, is the name of my Substack. You may search Unconventional Pastor Paul, but Sacred Rebellion is the name of it.
That would be a great name for a coffee drink at Starbucks.
Sacred Rebellion.
I'll have a Sacred Rebellion with extra ice.
I love it. I love it.
All right.
All right.
Love
you all. Sorry we took you overtime, but it was worth it. It was good. See ya.